The new atheists claim that God is a delusion and that science has done away with any need for God. But how good are the arguments that they use to support these claims? Michael Poole is Visiting Research Fellow in Science and Religion at King's College London. He researches and writes about the relationship between science and religion. He's the author of The New Atheism, 10 Arguments That Don't Hold Water. We asked him, has science done away with the need for God?
I think this is one of the fundamental weaknesses of many of the atheist arguments, the idea that one explanation can displace another one, as though they were interchangeable. You can have as many logically valid explanations as there is need for them. You can have an explanation in terms of the actions of an agent. You can have an explanation in terms of the mechanisms by which something is done. I mean, it'd be nonsense to say, well, look, now we understand the science and the engineering of a hovercraft, that this dispenses with any idea of Christopher Cockerell. That would be sheer nonsense, and yet people apply that sort of thing to religion. So that is central to the issues of science and religion, that you can have different logically compatible explanations of the same thing.
But even if it's possible to include God as well as scientific explanations, is it necessary? The famous philosopher William of Ockham said that you shouldn't make your explanations any more complicated than they need to be. And if science can explain the universe, do we need to bring God in?
Well, of course, if you're going to do science, you don't need to bring God into it. I know it was customary, and Newton did this himself, to bring into his scientific works mentions of God. But the methodological principle within science, and it's a valid one because science is only able to tackle things concerning material things and energy and things like that, it doesn't concern matters of religion. In fact, it's very odd to ask for scientific explanations of God, and that's one of the things that Richard Dawkins has done, because science is concerned with the material and with energy and so on, and that's where it stops. And it's very, very good at that and very effective. But religion asks questions like, is there anything other than the universe to which the universe owes its existence? And it's no good going to science, a study of the universe and the matter and the energy within it, to answer the question, is there anything other than the universe?
So for Michael Poole, science is limited in the kinds of questions it answers. But still, doesn't scientific progress leave less and less for God to do?
There are explanations of a scientific kind, but they're not interchangeable with explanations about God. That's one of the old fallacies, and it's very evident these days too, called the God of the gaps, a phrase that Charles Coulson coined on one occasion, although the idea came a lot earlier than him. But you can't plug in God where scientific explanations are missing at the moment. And Coulson made the very important point that if there are explanations that are missing, then you need to become better scientists and get some better explanations. That God in the biblical sense is the author and the sustainer of the whole show, not just the little bits that we don't understand at the moment. And of course it's a self-defeating argument, because if you just plugged God into the places where you had no current scientific explanations, then the further science advances, of course, the less room there'll be for God. And that's, of course, what people want to believe, some people anyway.
So Michael Poole points out that there are different kinds of explanation, in terms of the laws of science, or in terms of the intentions of the person involved. And you can't swap one kind of explanation for another. Explaining how something works scientifically doesn't do away with the need to understand what God is doing through it. The scientific method can only look at the material universe. By definition, It can't answer questions about whether there's anything else beyond that universe. So the growth of scientific knowledge does not leave God with nothing to do. According to the Bible, God is the author and sustainer of the whole universe, not just the parts we don't yet understand. So the argument that science leaves no room for God seems to be a broken argument. If you want to find out more about these and other bad arguments used by the new atheists, we recommend Michael Poole's book, The New Atheism: 10 Arguments That Don't Hold Water.